Good morning creators and welcome to another UEFN tutorial. In this episode I'm going to show you how to create custom landscape paints for your UEFN maps. This will include custom grass, custom textures, and any kinds of layering, so please follow along and hopefully this will serve all your needs. So first I'm going to create a landscape by going to landscape mode, and you'll notice my material is nothing, so I need to assign a material. We're going to create a new material, and I'm just going to name this one Landscape 1. We are going to save that, and we're going to create our landscape. Just so that I have something to work with, I'm going to sculpt some basic mountains just so I can have a nice view of what it looks like. And then in our content drawer, I want to open up my content and open up my material. I'm going to drag this tab up to the side so I can easily switch between the two. So inside of your nodes, first thing you're going to do is place down some textures. So under Fortnite textures landscape, they have some decent textures that I'm going to use. And so they're grouped in threes. You have your base color, you have your normals, and you have this third texture which is used for 3 attributes. So you're going to drag all 3 of these in here. And once you've lined them up, you're going to right click and search for set material attributes. Place that down, and we're going to add elements to that node. 5 to be exact. We want base color, metallic, specular, roughness, and instead of this one we want to have normal. So first you're going to right click, and you're going to search for landscape layer chords. You're going to apply this to your UVs. And so basically this is going to determine how, like, the size it maps, the rotation it maps, and the panning of the maps. And you can change that on this side, so if you want to scale at a large amount, you can increase the scale. Otherwise it's going to be scaling really small, and that might be a little bit that might not be what you want. So you're going to connect your RGB of the color to the base color. This is your normal, the blue ones are normals, so you're going to apply your RGB to normal. And for this third node, this actually contains your metallic, specular, and roughness. So R is your specular, G is your metallic, and B is your roughness. Thank you to this user for pointing this out. It's been very helpful. So once you've done that, you can preview the node by right clicking and start previewing the node, and you'll see it's working pretty well. If you want to decrease the scaling so you can see a little bit better, you can, and you'll see you can view it pretty well. Then of course we want to add some additional nodes. So this is of course our cliff. If we want to add a sand texture, just search for sand, and I want to use the wavy sand, so we're going to apply that to our map, and we're going to line them up like normal. Copy our landscape chords, apply our UVs, copy our set material attributes, paste it down, and of course connect your base color to base color, your RGB the normal to normal, and your red to specular, your green to metallic, and your blue to roughness. Preview that to make sure it's good. And it's looking great. We're going to stop previewing. And I want to add one more, so I'm going to add some grass. Search for grass. And we're going to select all 3 of these and paste them in like so. Move them up just so that we can better organize them. And I'm going to move the green to top, the normal to the middle, and this last one down below. One way to make sure that you're assigning the right ones, you'll notice that they usually label them with a letter. So this one has D, and it's also obviously the color because that's the default color, which is green. Grass is green, obviously. If it has this kind of like texture to it where it looks like light and it goes into blue. Usually blue, that's normal, and you'll notice it has an N in the name. And this other texture will usually be defined as something else, but the Fortnite textures have an S inside of them. So that's how you can tell the difference of each texture. So copy your set material attributes, paste them down. Of course, connect to your base color, your normal to your normal. Of course, your red to your specular, green to metallic, and blue to roughness. Then you're going to copy your landscape chords, paste them down, and connect it to your UVs. Now you have your 3 textures that you're going to be using. And to layer them, first thing you're going to do is right click and search for blend material attributes. And just one thing to note with blended material attributes is that it needs some sort of alpha to kind of command that. Usually it needs, otherwise it's going to blend evenly. And so what we're going to use to create a vertical layer or a height layer or slope layer is going to be based off of this. So open up your content browser under Epic and search for slope mask. And you'll notice with the result connected to alpha, and if we preview this, if we preview slope mask actually, you'll notice there's white on top and there's black on bottom. White is going to be the top layer and black is the bottom layer. And the way this works is that your top layer is going to be B and your bottom layer is going to be A. So for example, grass is going to go into B and your cliff is going to go into A. Pretty simple. If we preview this, you'll see that's how it blends. Now, currently, if you apply this to your world, you'll see that the grass is going to be basically covering everything because the slopes don't really get below this. So to change that, you need to change these attributes of the slope mask. So first, you're going to hold down 3 and left click for a constant 3 vector. Connect that to your tangent normal. And you'll see this basically determines where it's going to start mapping to. So if I increase this, it's going to map to the other side. But really, the only thing you need to worry about is your B, which is going to connect to your Z. If I increase that, you'll see it starts extending from the bottom, or from the top actually. For your slope angle, this basically changes the rotation of the texture. So if you want like grass to be on the west side only, you can do that. I don't really need a reason to do that, but I'll show it off anyways. So connect your RGB to that. And if I want to, for example, have it on this side, you'll see it's only on this side. There's stone on the other side. Obviously, I don't need that, so I'm just gonna not add anything to that. For fall off power, you just need a constant 1 vector, or just the value. Apply it to fall off power. And you'll notice with a fall off power 0, it's going to be a linear line. Add another value by holding 1 and right clicking, or left clicking, sorry, my bad. Apply it to chief contrast, and that's going to work together with the fall off power. So right now it's not blending at all. So I'm going to increase the fall off power so that it starts blending, and increase the cheap contrast so that it becomes a little more solid. And you'll notice that it's raising. So if you increase these two, over time it'll increase the height at which the grass starts appearing. You can also increase this value to make it go down, or decrease it to make it go up. So with these 3 nodes, you can change the value at which the grass appears. Now I think generally around like 15 to 10%, probably around 20% actually, somewhere around there is about where the grass should end. So that looks pretty good to me. And you'll notice it's layering correctly. So to apply it to our bottom layer, we're going to copy this, and we're going to paste below. Then we are going to apply our top layer to our B, start previewing, and our bottom layer to A. Another thing I want to note is if you want to add color to your textures, for example, if you don't want to have this default gray texture, you can always paste down another sample of it. And let's say, because it's a desert, I want the terrain to be kind of orangish. I'm going to hold down 3 and left click to get a constant 3 vector. I'm going to hold down M and left click to get a multiply node. I'm going to take this color, apply it to B, take this color, apply it to A. Doesn't really matter which one. If I preview, you'll notice it's black because it's being multiplied by black, but I can change the color of it to be whatever I want. I can even click on this and basically just use this tool to decide where I want the color to be. Going to apply that. Maybe I want to be a little bit more red. Like that. And I can apply that to my base color, and it will change the color of the terrain. And then of course, we're going to apply that to our blend material attributes node, which we are going to move this down since we are changing it. And of course, since this is our bottom layer, we're going to apply that to A. And if we preview, you'll see you've got an orange texture down below instead of the gray one with the sand on top. Now, to combine these nodes and be able to paint, what you're going to do is, first of all, stop previewing. Then you're going to right click and search for landscape, layer blend. And this is a really important part where you need to name your paints. So add to, open up your index, and you're going to name your layers. For example, the first one is going to be called grass stone. You don't need to name anything specific, but it's good to organize, and you will be using these names, so don't make them the same. So this one could be sandstone, and I'm going to connect them to the proper nodes like this, and this one to this. Next, I'm going to right click again and get a get material attributes node. I'm going to, of course, add as many attributes as I was using. Of course, I was using base color, metallic, specular, roughness, and normal. So I'm going to apply this to this, and I'm going to connect these to the proper outputs. For example, base color is going to be base color. Metallic is a metallic, specular and specular, roughness to roughness, and normal to normal. Now, if I save and apply, I can open up my landscape and see how it looks. So you see by default, it's going to be black. That is correct. That's what should happen. You're going to go into paint mode, and under layers, you'll see you have your two layers. Now I can't paint this yet because I have not assigned a layer yet. So I'm going to go into create layer info. And I'm going to use a weight blended layer, not a non-weight blended layer, because weight blended layers just look better, and yeah, just use this, please. And I'm going to, of course, save that. And you'll see it automatically creates my layer. And for sandstone, I'm going to create a weight blended layer as well. And so now I can paint on my sandstone or my grass stone. Now I don't really like how it's tiled. You'll see the tiles are very repetitive. It's very easy to see that it's texture. So if I want to change that, obviously I misspelled landscape, just now noticed that, but who cares? I can go into landscape layer chords, and I can increase the mapping scale. Like so. I'm just going to pick random values just to experiment. I'm going to apply that, and you'll see the mapping has increased. It looks a little bit better. Maybe it's too big on the terrain, who knows, but it looks a lot better, a lot more manageable, a lot more playable. So yeah, just experimenting with the layering of it is a great way to ensure that your materials look great. Now for the final step, I mentioned we were going to add custom grass, and this is a really exciting new part of the video. So first you're going to right click and search for landscape layer sample, and you're going to name this to the layer that you want to have that. So for example, I want grass to have grass, so I'm going to name this to grass stone. It has to be exactly the name of the layer blend. So I'm using grass stone, so I'm naming this one grass stone. If you don't name it that way, it will not show up, so make sure you name it correctly. And then right click again and search for grass, landscape grass output, and you can connect that here. Next, in your grass output, you can open this up and create a new landscape grass type. Just going to save that, and I'm going to open it up. By default, it doesn't have any grass varieties. You need to import your own meshes, but for my example, and also because I think it's kind of funny, I'm going to add a grass mesh that is just a cone. And I'm going to save that. And obviously I've applied that, and you'll notice in my project, if everything has worked out correctly, I have to save this, of course, save all of it. You'll notice it starts populating with cones on the grass layers and not on the sandstone. So make sure that you correctly blend the sandstone so that it does not have any cones in there. Obviously, since this is a gradient because it's blending, because my tool fall off, well, just because it's blending, the cones can like reach over into the sand. You'll notice they all spawn like this, and it's kind of funny. It's like an army of cones. You'll also notice right now the cones are populating on the edge of cliffs, and I doubt that you want to have like grass that's going to be on the cliffs. So to fix that, you're going to go back into your landscape mode, and this is an invention that I just randomly stumbled upon. You can copy your slope mask that you're using for it, paste it in here. You're going to press L and left click to get a lerp node. Apply this to whichever one you want. So since I'm going to be using B as a top layer, I'm going to put it in B. And I'm going to put this in my alpha. And I'm going to output this on my landscape grass. And if I've done everything correctly, I can apply. And you'll notice it no longer populates on the cliffs. At least not as much. So you might want to edit your slope mask just to make sure that it's not blending like that. But you'll notice it is a bit better. If I go back to here, you'll see it's populating more. But if I use this layer, it's going to populate less. So of course, if you want to not have any of those at all, you just need to edit your slope mask right here. And once you edited it properly, you should be able to have grass wherever you want it to be. If you want to add more grass varieties to your grass layer, you can always add another one. For example, if I want to add, let's say this one is going to be, what can we do? Let's just do cubes. You can change that, apply that, and you'll see we have cubes and cones. Now you'll see right now they're not very dispersed well, and they're all the same size. It's kind of ugly. Another thing you can do is change all these features. So grass density is about how many times it appears. If I turn this down, you'll notice the cubes appear less. I might have to turn it down a lot actually. Cube density. And you can change other features as well, like placement jitter, cold distance quality, and cold distance, which is basically kind of a render distance. The LOD, scaling, which you can change different kinds of scales. So if you want to change these scales and allow there to be like a maximum scale of a certain type or a minimum scale of a certain type, you can easily change that here. Random rotation, you probably want to have on. Align to surface, you want to have on. Probably not cast shadows, because that could probably break your map if there are too many shadows being cast. And of course you can apply the same kind of settings to your, I'm going to decrease density quality as well, to your other grass texture. Grass density, I'm going to decrease those. I'm just going to keep the scaling like that. And I don't want to have shadows, because shadows could crash my game if there are too many shadows being placed at once. And you'll notice now I've got some really randomly shaped cubes and some cones, of course. I mean, obviously you probably want to use actual grass meshes and not this mess, but I mean, the cool thing about this is you can create rubble pretty easily. Also, these meshes do not have any collision, so while you can use this landscape grass node to populate trees around your map, I don't recommend it because they're not going to have any collision. Just one thing to keep in mind. And of course, if you want to add grass layers to your other terrains, like if you want to add to your sand, you can. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a grass mesh, like I showed you. Like this cone is not a grass mesh, you know, but If you had a rock and you wanted to populate your terrain with rocks, you can have a rock mesh here, and the rock mesh would populate on, for example, if I want to add that to sand, I can populate it there. So that's how you create your terrain paints with layers and grass that's also layered. If you found this tutorial helpful, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, and a suggestion down below. I hope you have an amazing day, and good luck creating.